We're getting into a conversation about education this hour, and our guest for the hour is already seated. And as we get into it, we've been talking and we've been saying a number of things about education. What is happening in the country? What direction are we going in? And how are we going to get this caboose back on track? FM Boaz Waruku is a strategy and policy advisor, the Elimu Bora working group, and he's our guest this hour. Boaz, good morning.
Good morning, thank you, and thanks to everyone here, City, Mark, and where is Eric?
Eric, every now and then he likes to do what we call a walkabout.
Okay, fine.
You know, and when he comes back, he'll tell us which part of the country he decided to walk to this time and give us the adventures. It's like Gulliver's Travel. We'll just call it Latif's Travel.
The floods or El Nino.
Somebody's doing something, that's for sure.
It is very possible. Very possible.
Salute to him, wherever he is.
Yes, he is well, though.
Thank you.
Right. So we're getting into an education conversation. But before we do that, CT will welcome you properly with today's proverb from DRC.
Yes, proverbs for the whole of this week come from DRC. Now, DRC, like their neighbor, the Republic of Congo, or otherwise known as Congo Brazzaville, have a president and a prime minister. This thing of deputy prime minister, chief minister, none of these things. President and
prime minister.
Full stop. And their president is called Felix Tshisekedi, and the prime minister is called Sama Lukonde. Now, like us, they have a Senate and they have a National Assembly.
Okay.
They also do. Like us.
Okay. What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that we're not the only ones who have a Senate.
that they copied us, or we copied them.
No. We had a Senate at independence.
Yes, we did.
Then we did away with it.
Yes.
Then we thought, brought new constitution, brought it back again. For all you know, we may get rid of vice president, deputy vice president, and just have president, prime minister. For all
looking
you know.
thing.
Yeah, we you know, I'm just saying.
I like your faith, CT. I need to attend your church so more often.
Every morning, church is here.
Yes.
Okay. The proverb for the day: the snake and the crab do not sleep together in the same hole.
Boaz, I said,
Snake,
crab,
and the crab.
Snake, many people are familiar with.
Yes.
Crab, maybe they've seen a picture of them, they've never quite seen a crab.
I've seen people eating it.
It's very nice.
It's very tasty.
Yeah. Very delicious.
It's extremely tasty.
I just didn't know that they could live in.
I can't say the same for snake, but crab,
no,
very
crab
nice.
is very, very tasty.
Okay.
Very.
If you're talking about the looks, okay, just leave the looks aside. It is tasty, okay. And then there's something called lobster. It looks can scare you, okay. It looks extraterrestrial, but very tasty.
When you throw it on
so
some coals and sprinkle
feel it differently. The tongue and the eyes. If you have to take a decision based on the eye, you
don't let the visual impact control your.
However, allow your senses to tell us what you think about this proverb. Boy.
Yes. Snake and the crab do not sleep together in the same hole.
Oh. For somebody who doesn't appreciate the taste of the crab.
Or snake, for that
matter. I start with the crab because I see City has really explained how nice it is, and still is not convinced me. So I consider this not to be part of what I'll place on the table. So part of things which I'll push aside. But assuming that I was him, then I would say, sweet and bitter things cannot coexist.
Sweet and bitter things.
Which is the bitter one now? We have to clarify.
Snakes are not bitter, though.
Okay, no sweet and bitter things.
I'm told snakes taste like chicken, though.
Well,
You've had a taste.
So does crocodile.
I have not had the chance. Crocodile I have, and it does taste like chicken.
I've eaten something, but finally when I'm walking out of the restaurant, then I saw and I just said, let me turn and exit. I don't want to ask, what did I eat? And so that's the closest. But what I know is, I think my interpretation of this would be basically, it's always it's always possible to have, I think, maybe just these are two polarities. I'm looking at the snake, which that's a very charming animal. If, biblically, if you look at how sin came into this world, the curses and all that. But then the crab, I don't know whether that crab has some level of intelligence. So for me, I think these are things which hold different pockets of wisdom or intelligence or whatever it is. And so if one is not as wise, I think, how do you keep company of the other?
Huh?
I don't know. That's how I'll fumble.
It's not fumbling. It's not fumbling. It's actually explaining to us in detail how you interact with that particular proverb. And as I say, you cannot be wrong.
You like giving 100%?
Yes, but
On some days when it's raining, you can even go to 150.
Oh.
when you ask someone their opinion, they give you opinion, their opinion.
Yes.
How can they possibly be wrong?
Oh, sure.
And it's their opinion.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, I mean, Boaz, again, even as we looking at having an education conversation, there have been many things, well, not have been, there are currently many things. And, you know, I've been passionate about this over the last couple of years and said that the way in which we are teaching our children, upon whose responsibility lays, you know, the future of generations, is wanting. The infrastructure, the setup through which we're delivering this vital in education is shaky at best. The only way we can establish solutions or have conversations pointing towards a better place is to note that there is a problem, I think. I think as we get into this with Elimu, Bora and other things that you've worked on as concerns education, would you give us your thoughts about where the education sector is today across board?
Thank you, Ndu, and thanks, colleagues. I think this is one of the radio stations where education has really been thrust on the table almost each and every other day. I think listening to you a number of times, I'll always feel like, oh, these guys are really trying to make Kenyans think and solve the problems we have in education. So thank you, I appreciate that. And two, also Elimu Bora working group has also been looking at the situation in the country, and not just recently. I think this started many months ago at the beginning of the year. But even before that, in the various agencies forming Elimu Bora have been working also on education. And each and every turn, they've been giving critical comments that, if utilized, would be helpful in rerouting education so that we do not have lots of these recurring problems. Why do I say that? Because where we are at currently, I think the KCSE exams are ongoing.
Yes.
And almost each and every day, you know, you expect to get some report or update on who attempted to cheat where and all that, and you start wondering, what the hell are we dealing with? So that front on the national exams and the cheating menace is still there. And then we also get a feel that somehow after those other grades and the forms that close schools, somehow I'm not getting a feel of how the Ministry of Education is seizing the moment and looking at what needs to be fixed ahead of time. I know the parents are talking of, it's a long holiday, and how we have not been used to this, you see. And it is even longer for those who sat the KCP.
Yes.
Because, you see, they have almost an extra month. So I would have looked at this being the situation when you have a deeper reflection as a country. And that deeper reflection should be informed by facts and figures, should be informed by the experiences that we've gathered over time, so that the challenges which still continue to follow us each and every moment can be addressed, devoid of politics. I like emphasizing that, because when you introduce that foreign material, then nothing stands, nothing holds, everything is wobbly. This would be the time for us to say, okay, what were we grappling with? We've had a whole year of JSS,
Yes.
grade 7. Those kids have not learned. Those kids have gone through a whole year with 1 or 2 teachers, with 14 learning areas, and then Munavu report comes and tells KICD leaders in reducing this to 9. KICD, I think, is still struggling. How do we even do this? So I would have suggested that this would be the time to undertake those reflections. This would also be the time to by that, looking at then the teachers, how do we ensure that we get the right number of teachers? Because I think it's beginning to look like and feel like the government is comfortable and satisfied that things are running on well. I think just the other day, listening to the president in parliament, he keeps repeating this idea of 56,000 teachers that have been recruited.
Yes.
Of course, it is a record, because we have never had such mass recruitment.
Boaz, where are these teachers?
Why don't you allow me to finish? I don't. The teachers, you're told, 56,000.
Yes, where are they?
Because they're supposed to be in the JSS. Largely, and that's why I think we've done the math here. At some point, we came around and said it equals to 1.5 teacher per JSS. But what I'm saying is that instead of living in the past, talking about we have done this, I think we should be looking at the gap that we have. And looking at how many more teachers do you still require to put in place, so that then we are able to address the gap. You'd also be looking at this is a time that we've had a transition in that in the CBC, where instead of having the infrastructure in place, the workshops, the laboratories, the music rooms, all these things that we expect, the kitchenettes, libraries and all that. And I think we have relapsed and almost said, let nature take its own course, the tsunami way, or rather the El Nino way. So we should have been looking more specifically on how do we deal with that, because if we do not address it as of now, I fear that we could be beginning to fall into the trap of the 844. Its introduction. The graph is so similar. Unfortunately, the 844 had even a better start because there was lots of equipment and all that. But the graph, the way it's running, it's so similar that we are almost saying we cannot afford this. Or rather, I know Kenya has resources. I'm one of those who keep on saying that the resources we have, if utilized well, applied well, would be able to finance education in a very appropriate manner. But the graph tends to move towards the graph of the 844, where we said we needed a little bit more of the practical-oriented students, those who can who can venture into the world at whatever level. If they exited standard 8, they'll be having some skills that can sustain them in life. But then with time, we removed almost everything that mattered, and then we remained with the biology and the history and all that without very practical orientation on the other aspects that we would have wanted. Why I'm saying so is we should have been learning that from the previous task forces and presidential working parties and those commissions. We keep on touching or glossing over matters. We keep on just, I don't know what to do, because we fail to get to the depth of what makes us fail on the implementation of grand ideas. I think I know researchers who would be interested to just start looking at these reports from the Ominde Commission now to the Munavu. And then you start realizing, are we just making people to go and cut and paste things or just juggle around? But of course, the Munavu one is a terrible mistake for me, because for the first time, this is the one that did not have serious TOR that ring and protected us from people who would veer off from the constitutional principles, like the right to education and all that. So the previous ones you'd find, like I think Professor Odhiambo's, the one that birthed, so to say, the CBC, when they were told, go and assess education and advise on how do we make education compliant with the Constitution, make recommendations on how to improve and all that. This one, we did not have that kind of ring fencing. So I'm not surprised, I'm not shocked that the kind of pronouncements, recommendations coming from it are as varied. And with that variation, you'd also find that even the implementation is so haphazard that we start here, then we move there. You do somersault within a very short time. You keep on thinking, is like, is this being informed by the report? And I think I have to mention this, because the other day you had the parliament say, how can you start just implementing this
without coming to us?
Without coming to us. But then you realize that our parliament is also not serious, because that is as far as they went. I've even gone to check if there was any instrument transmitted from Parliament telling the ministry, stop this, let's have this in place. I've not come across it. And I've asked, not me as Boaz, that's Elimu Bora. And I'm saying so because even after that, you realize that the implementation of those recommendations continues. So in other words, I would say that let's not always use every occasion just as a political moment to cool down the tempers. When Kenyans went to election, they knew education needed fixing. They knew almost to the detail what actually needed to be done. And so it became a serious issue for the campaigns. The Azimio, for example, said, the problem we've had is financing. We'll ensure that everybody goes to school from PP1 or kindergarten to the university, publicly funded, so free of charge on the side of the parent and the students. And Kenya Kwanza promised that, okay, we'll actually the promise was to reverse this CBC and all that, and they'll ensure that they create a system that would be suitable for this country. And in fact, they even signed a charter. It's an education charter. But so in other words, I'm simply saying that education was at the center. Kenyans really wanted education fixed. The problem is, by creating then the Munavu Working Party, Kenyans thought that something serious was being done.
Yes, no. They went around the country.
Kenyans thought that something serious was being done. I'm among those who actually that is what informed the formation of Elimu Bora. Because
did the education system really need fixing?
Education in itself requires improvement. That's why the assessments, the evaluations take place, the periodic reviews take place, so that then you can improve on the aspects which are not working as well.
What we have is not fixing. This is an overhaul.
Yes, you tell me this is the overhaul started many years back. I think with the CBC, it was an overhaul.
It's not just CBC. Remember what we're now dealing with and what we're calling a practical approach towards the learning system.
Yes.
In a time gone by, there were technical schools.
There were.
Which also taught humanities and sciences.
Yes.
There were schools that taught humanities and sciences, but also had a very strong technical department.
Yes.
They had a home science. All these things that we are referring to as being technical and as being innovative existed. They were done away with.
Yes.
Okay? Completely. They existed.
They did.
They were there. The equipment was there. This push that you're now hearing as new, it's not new at all. It's not new. we did away with a system that actually had the support system to ensure it actually worked.
Yes.
Adopted a purely theoretical one. And now we are talking about going back to one. Okay? And it's supposed to usher us into this new era. And yet, in my mind, it lacks one simple component. What is it in this education system that will guarantee that the learners are able to be creators of opportunities and jobs for themselves? What is it? That component is not there. At best, its existence is in a mention. Somebody may mention it, but how?
Yeah.
Because the issue of unemployment was supposed to have been solved through such an education system. Okay? So at whatever level, whether it's an 8, 7, whatever it is, you are able to do something.
Yeah.
Now, if this is lacking, how then can we even dare say that the discussion around education is an honest conversation?
That's why, you remember I started by saying the moment we remove this, I love elephants. I didn't want to say remove this elephant called the politics. What do you equate to politics? The moment you remove it, we'll become very sober and actually realize it. Because you remember why I was benchmarking from the 844. And thanks to you, you've taken us even before that.
Yes.
And that is why even the national polytechnics that we had were really working. In fact, in the industry, people would really prefer getting people from the Kenya polytechnics and all that. You see, because the kind of training and all that.
They had
it was
we even had
now
almost lower level village polytechnics.
Yes, and at that level, all of them we converted almost to the universities. And then they are the same ones. Then you come and say, okay, this is so theoretical. So I agree with you on that, but I think what I'm just trying to say, because you called it a total overhaul and all that.
Yes.
I think we've mentioned this and all. And even if you wanted to do an overhaul, I'll give you City, for example. Now we are doing an overhaul and then we are finishing off the 844. Clearing it off.
Yes.
So the KCP, the last batch, sat KCP. And then we are saying no more KCP.
Yes.
This is the same government that within its ranks, they know that they are even having the youth and adult education programs. These are the programs which feed to KCP, because these are students also and learners who had started, and some are in class 5, class 6, 7. They have not done KCP, but now recruiting them to the CBC, because they are not CBC students.
They're not.
Now you are telling them, you'll not do KCP again. So the first questions, because I think we had a session as Elimu Bora, and we were saying, so where do they go? They've not had a chance to sit for the KCP. I'm told the most of the directors who are in charge actually approached the ministry and asked, what do we do with this? And then they were told, no, you just bring them to sit for the KCP and say, how do you do
How do you do that? Okay.
So I'm giving you, that's one of the practical problems.
Mark Bichachi is bursting at the seams.
I want to ask the basic question.
Ask the question, Mark.
How educated is someone in public school at whichever level they are supposed to be educated? So how educated is a graduate from Kenyan public system? How educated is a high school graduate from the Kenyan public system? Are they 90% educated to the level of satisfaction, 80%, 70%? Give me a number.
Mark, you're asking me a difficult question. That evaluation, I don't want to do guesswork. But your question,
give me because what is critical? What is critical?
Yes,
is the argument will be that we don't have the equipment, we don't have anything, but we've been able to educate this person to 80% satisfaction of what is expected. Right? That's my imagination.
Okay.
So before we get into the spanners, bolts, and nuts, what is the product to an employer, to the business community? What is the product coming out of Kenyan education?
I would actually indicate that the graduates from Kenya actually perform. I've not heard of serious complaints. There are complaints here and there, and I don't think it is only in Kenya alone. So even with the 844, what you push through and through is what you harvest at the outside there. But I think also, because for me, I would have looked at the philosophical foundation of then the education that we are to have. Because if the education we have is the one that produces the Kenyans that we have currently, the Kenyans that are a little bit more forgetful and a little bit more enticed very easily with the things which really do not matter, and the Kenyans which, because they think the indices of very dangerous things, including corruption, including the gender misogynies, the ethnic, those divisions, those kind of things. In other words, it's education then that has not helped us to nurture a cohesive and integrated nation. And then in that case, it means that what is taught in different parts of the country and the way they are socialized, so that kind of an aspect has not really taken into consideration what we as a nation should have. So the very foundation of why do we even want to educate our children to this? We want to educate them as citizens who would be very proud of themselves as citizens of this country, who would be very responsible, and who would know that I am because you are, and we work together to make a common good, that kind of a thing. But if the parameters that then we want us to look at is this one can speak good English and all that. You say that may not necessarily be the only yardstick that we may, because if you want to do so, could have been asking King Charles, who was here, because that is his mother tongue. He's the one who can verify that. But in other words, what I'm trying to say is taking stock and just reflecting and saying, what kind of education do we want? I actually thought that with the coming in of the new administration, which happened now to be Ruto's administration, Kenyans really wanted to reflect on that subject. So that Kenyans would now not be telling you that, okay, we just want meter readers and steel fixers and all that. That at whatever level you come out, you're somebody who has been socialized, who has been educated well enough to know that it is only fair and good to do good things. That is how you make a nation. That is how the future generation can, we can bequeath to them something that is much more valuable than the property lands where everybody is being evicted. We are even killing one another looking for this kind of the assets, you see. So essentially, I would have said that part of the package that I would be bringing to the table, this reflective moment, when we have this kind of space, is please, let's walk back. Because I think probably because we have not placed our finger on that, why we even need this education. That's why we pronounce ourselves education reform. And when they say education reform, there are those who have gone to the budget and say Project X in education, that's mine. And this one is yours. This one is, if it is driven by such interests, then we are not getting anywhere. But if it is a reform on the basis of what really do we need to have, what kind of a product, as you're putting it, I think we have also discussed it in this space some time back. What kind of a product would we say when we see somebody out there say, Kenyan educated? That would be very proud of. But I'll tell you, I think on the basic level, I have not come across a Kenyan student or rather a product of this education system who has been told this one is so bad, cannot fit.
Do you know why I asked this question?
Yes, please.
If you travel the world, you'll notice one thing. That management in Kenya is heavier than most places. You'll go to a restaurant outside. I'm getting somewhere. You go to a restaurant and then you'll find the waiter is the cashier. You give them the money, they go to the till, they ring it up, and they put in the money, right?
Yes.
In Kenya, you need managers because the quality of the educated, not the quantity of education, there's a mismatch. In other words, our moral fiber, our national identity has not been transferred in our education. So there is no moral expectation out of a Kenyan student. And the reason I was asking that, there's a warning in the papers that says that many parents are being tricked to buy fake KCSE and previously KCPE papers this year
Tricked.
to buy. Tricked. Now, so here's the thing. You are willing to help your child cheat on the exam.
So they're not being tricked.
The
They know what they're
amount
doing.
of immorality being seconded into a generation. So yes, you produce a very clever Kenyan.
An A grade.
An A grade Kenyan. But a D grade morally bankrupt individual.
Yes, sure. So,
But surely that's morality transfer.
Mark,
Cesar?
Mark, you know, the point you're raising is very critical because you're saying you're top heavy on management. And indeed, a country that has not realized its values and all that, even right now, I mean, many Kenyans, by the way, the civil society has done a lot of work that almost every Kenya says, oh, national values and principles of governance. Go to Article 10 of the Constitution. They are there, you know. So it is chapter 6 on the leadership and integrity. It is there.
Yes.
The preamble tells us actually the prayer that we should be, it's all there. But you see, those are things in place, but the action and practice are totally different. So let me use the milk line, for example. I did dairy and food technology after Tigeton, my first degree. As I'm using that just to tell you, I mean, if the milkman would milk that product and deliver it and sell to the consumer without adulteration, there won't be need for any inspectors or supervisors and all that. But because you require, I mean, people are not so sure that you'd be trusted with that. Others, you'll add water, add whatever kind of thing. Then you'll need people who enforce standards. You'll need those who do. So you'll put a whole baggage of so many things. And these ones are a charge eating onto the final price that you get, isn't it? So there's a cost to it. Corruption is so expensive. But just living to be good and to be nice to the extent that I know if I want milk, I can pass through and I don't have a lot of problems. In fact, nowadays, it's not even just, okay, well, I use the milk. But is there any product that we haven't had people attempting to pirate or to create similar products, you know?
In this country, we even sell God. So,
so in other words, I think the moral fiber, yes, but that's why I went to the foundation of it. And for us, I think there are three things that I would mention that are very core to us as Elimu Bora. We say any opportunity that we get to discuss about education, let us as Kenyans be reminded that first we need to ground it on a rights perspective, because that is the right thing to do. That education is a right, which again we are not negotiating anymore, because that is already in the Constitution, in all the statutes that we've been there. It's already prescribed, but we need to embrace it and feel it and actualize it, practice it. Not that we say that, but the opposite is actually what obtains. Two, the foundation or the philosophical foundation of that also tells us that we are not just training or taking our children, youth and all that, just because, baada ya kusoma utapata kazi nzuri, you know, like those songs of the past, yeah? Because it is not just for to go and get jobs and all that, you know, unless we simply just want to repeat what the colonialists did, where they just wanted people to help them in the farms and, I mean, clever enough just to be able to read and keep records, you know. So if we knew that the education we require is the one that would open the mind, you know, the picture that you have, that you can now understand the humanity in its wholesomeness. And that's why we talk about the holistic education. And that the holistic education in our case, I think we are looking at it being found, I mean, being established across the board in a way that a school, I'll use a school as a standard. That a school that you find in Barkorua, I keep on mentioning the Barkorua school. Let me just use that. The same one that you'll find at Nairobi Primary School. That the facilities, that teachers, everything that you require, that school here is the same was similar to the school that is elsewhere in terms of the teachers. Just that ICT, because this is a 21st century, you require these young ones really to be adept at using and the technology is coming in very, very fast. So we need to be helping and making them to be part of the transformation in the digital age. So for me, and for us, we say that holistic school, which is beyond what I think what the Monavo group was trying to do. They came across something called the comprehensive school system. And they started saying that now you start from PP1 to grade 9. To them, they look at the years of stay in what particular area and then you stretch it. I think there's certain concepts that if we just bring them here, because we know in the US there's some comprehensive school system, there's this and that. I think we need to be very clear that when any time that we have this opportunity to reflect and to get the education right, then we bring the holistic picture. We try to ensure that the school system that we have is one that would not leave other sections of the community marginalized or other children behind. I know that is a language we keep using. Even UNESCO has it in their SDG number 4, that leaving no child behind. And in fact, our politicians and those in leadership are very quick to use it, and the public think that they mean what they say. At times, they are saying it because it is a rhetoric. It is what makes others feel happy, but they do not mean it. So what we would be looking at and thinking is we have had a very turbulent period in education. We've reached here. Lots of things haven't been done. Yes, we can point fingers and all that, but that is not where we should be. We should now be looking at how do we ensure that the financing that is required is put in place, and that financing is directed and remitted to the schools at the right time, in the right quantity,
with the right regularity.
Yes, so that at least when you give the school heads the opportunity to manage and the BOMs at those levels, then now you'll be looking at you guys are not doing the right thing. And two, would also be looking at how do we deal with the teacher issues, because let me tell you right now, I doubt whether our teachers are that motivated.
At what point were they ever motivated, really?
Okay. That is a prayer that we have. By independence. And by the way, there's a time, my dad was a teacher. And it reached a point that I would see other teachers coming home, and they are coming to us, tunataka kuona mwalimu.
But do you know why they were motivated?
Yes.
Why? What was a teacher was not a person, he was an emblem,
Yes.
He was a symbol.
Yes.
What was a teacher symbol of?
Progression,
Yes.
opportunity.
Yes. These are the most important people you had in the community.
It was always considered that they wise.
And whatever it is they were doing was given the highest value you could actually give.
Yes.
True.
Yes.
That is why when you're called mwalimu, respect couldn't get any better.
Yeah.
Okay? What happened then?
We got other people with higher respect. They're called mheshimiwa. Yeah, those are the people in the village lineup
we
now.
got something called money. That graduated even whatever buffoon at whatever level.
Before money, there came the fact that business became politics and politics became business.
Okay.
Before it was corrupt.
Okay.
And the problem, if you trace down
Yes.
the transition of our societal values, it came a few years after independence, not just for Kenyans, but for many people who had bought the idea that if they bettered their minds, bettered their skill sets, their lives would be better.
Yes.
Then there came a politician who was able to import towels from China and sell to the government and come and drive the best Mercedes better than the teacher. And then our eyes changed. And to this day, there are people in noble professions, professors, doctors, name them, who would leave a noble calling to go into politics because the allure and the grandeur of African power is irresistible.
Mark, something happened before all that. Something happened before all that.
Yes.
That teacher we spoke of, or the time gone by, wanted to teach.
Yes.
Yes. True.
In my mind,
From a desire.
They wanted to teach. It was something that it was sought after.
Yes.
It was something that people who went into it were probably the best that you had
At the
True.
time. Yes.
That is
Yes,
true.
yes, it is
Now came a time when, because we needed teachers, this way in my mind the fatal flaw occurred. If you couldn't get the course you wanted,
Yes.
they gave you education.
Teachers.
Oh, yes.
So you started building a cadre of people who are doing jobs they did not want. Now I'm speaking as a teacher. This is not a job you got into if you didn't want to. True. Because the demands go beyond just being at work and then leaving at 4. It goes beyond that. Now, the moment you have a cadre of people, give it a generational turnover, who don't want to teach, what do you think they're going to produce?
And most countries that have progressed very well, actually, the top cream are the ones that
End
are
up teaching.
retained to teach.
Absolutely.
Because then that actually is the right person and the best person to be a teacher. Because that person, probably they have shown by example that they can explore all avenues. They can generate knowledge. They they feel like it all the time. So I think South Korea, for example, is a good example, because I saw a report around that in 2015 during the Incheon conference, where they were actually indicating that why have they gotten it right? Because everybody's struggling to be at the top, to be a teacher.
Yes.
And that profession
It's a highly
is
sought
respected,
after.
revered, and
Yes.
remunerated also well.
Yes, Mark?
I want to agree with the two, because there's a funny phenomenon I've noticed in the corridors of corporate and government Kenya. The number of PhDs who seek civil jobs, who seek management jobs in corporate world. By the time you get a PhD, by definition, you're an academician.
Yes.
I do not understand, for the life of me, as in congratulations on your PhD and everything, I do not understand why a PhD is required to be a manager at Kenya Export Promotion and
Because
Branding Agency.
remuneration as a teacher is punitive.
You need the level in order to
it
beg
is
the
a
amount.
joke.
But you're making my point exactly.
Yes.
Because instead of getting the best to train people to actually do jobs, we are getting the best
Others.
to compete. At a guy who can do a job at a degree level is competing with a PhD job holder for the same job. It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
Boaz, I mean, even if as we look at a time where next year, if we look at this, because now our time is running down.
It's 9th of January. when
But
they
we're
resume.
looking at next year, 2024
Yes.
is going to be critical because so many things are happening at the same time. Your final KCPEs finished this year, they're getting into Form 1.
Yes.
Your second batch now of junior school comes in.
Grade 6.
Grade 6 now becomes grade 7, and grade 7 becomes
are now
grade 8.
Yeah.
We're also looking at funding models which are being introduced. We're looking at the STEM approach which is coming into the country starting next year. Critical year. And we still have a backlog of capitation. We still have the funding model still at best upside down. What needs to happen? Some of these things we speak about are not things you can go to school and learn. How are we going to inject this to actually see some kind of semblance of proper operation?
Yeah, we as Elimu Bora, we did analysis first on that report that Munavu produced. And we passed our verdict and said totally wanting. Not what we expected. And when the parliament expressed itself, we actually told them, you guys need to do more, a little bit more. Because even look at the funding model. I don't want to discuss it because you are aware we are in court on the matter. So I don't want to open it in such a manner. Because Kenya Human Rights Commission, Elimu Bora, and the Student Caucus are in court just challenging that. And the changing pattern and everything, even the reclassification of the subjects and all that, which the KCD is struggling because they have been told redo it this way, but then they are saying the way the subject areas were actually found and brought out, it's not easy, it's not possible to do that kind of a rapid thing. So what I will sum up and tell you is that the people who are in the education sector, the ministry particularly, I think those guys have a headache.
Yeah.
They're so stressed.
They need to work out something.
They're so stressed because all the things which they should have been solving bit by bit, the political, you call it the bandwagon, pushed them
out
through, and now they're the ones who are supposed to collect the pieces and
put them
reroute
back
it
together.
back. So that is a problem.
It needs to
they
be
have not been
fixed.
given space to fix it. I don't know how that can be done, but this is our country. Our children cannot be left in that kind of a situation. We need to fix it now. JSS, we are having the second batch. The final group, the final year is remaining grade 9. And then you go to senior school when you have learned nothing in JSS. That is a total disaster.
FM Boaz Waruku, our time is up. I mean, we've even shot over, but thank you for being here, and definitely things to look at. Asante.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.